is sold. Cris tried hard, but he just couldn't be content driving the carriage. Every now and then he wandered away to do other things. One evening when the colonel needed him to drive the carriage, he couldn't be found. Prince went from cabin to cabin to locate him, but no one had seen him. When Cris returned home, Prince said, "Where have you been? The colonel wanted you to drive, but we couldn't find you." "I was down by the river," said Cris. "Why didn't he get Tom to drive the carriage?" "We both drive about the same, father." "You're supposed to be here when the colonel wants you," Prince said flatly. "I know," said Cris. "I'm just property for the colonel to order about." There was a certain bitterness in his voice. "If I didn't have to drive the carriage, I would really enjoy it. What is wrong with me, anyhow? Why am I like this?" Now he seemed to be upset with himself. "I don't know, son," Prince said. "Maybe it's because you don't stop to think about things. Maybe it's because you're trying to grow up too fast. Just stop to think, son." The next day, important things took place at the Attucks cottage. Prince and Nancy were outside in the yard when Colonel Buckminster came to see them. He looked bent, worn, and very tired. His speech was slow. "I'm sorry," he said hesitatingly, "but I must sell Cris. He isn't happy here, and I'm too old to watch over him any more. Recently, I talked with Deacon Brown about him. The deacon has boats and has promised to let him work on a boat. Will you tell Cris to be ready to leave in the morning?" "Then you've already sold him?" asked Mrs. Attucks, startled. "Yes, Nancy." She started to cry, softly at first, then deeply, as if her heart was broken. Prince put his arms around her. "I'm sorry, Nancy," the colonel said sadly. He looked at her as if surprised that she should feel so upset. Then he turned to Prince. "I'm sure you understand, Prince. Cris isn't happy here. I've tried to be kind to him, but I can't manage him any more." The colonel seemed to be pleading with Prince to approve of his action. Prince nodded as if to agree, but in his heart he had lost all respect for the colonel. The thing that he feared most had happened, but he had never thought that it would actually happen. Cris had been sold without his being consulted. He just couldn't believe it. The Attucks family was being broken up by the colonel, the man he had trusted so much and the man he had loved so well. "Deacon Brown will be good to him and give him an opportunity to work on a boat," said the colonel. He was trying to explain his actions. "I understand," said Mrs. Attucks without looking up. Most of all, she wanted the colonel to go and leave her alone with Prince. She was certain that Prince, too, wanted the colonel to leave, but he was speechless. The colonel felt deeply sorry for Prince and his wife. He had never seen them show much emotion before and had never really thought of them as having deep feelings. Now he realized that they loved Cris deeply, just as he loved the members of his own family. They were human, and he had never really thought of them thus. Bewildered and unhappy with himself, he turned and went away. After he left, Cris came slowly from the cottage. "I heard," he said, "and I'm sorry to have caused so much trouble. We'll find it hard to be separated, but I'll come to see you as often as I can." He hesitated, then added bitterly, "I've been sold just like another piece of furniture. Aunt Maria always said that it would be like this, and she was right. The colonel could have made me free if he had wanted to," he continued, turning to Prince. "You're supposed to be his favorite, and he should have done it for you, but he didn't. Instead, he sold me so that he could make money on me." Seeing the sadness in his parents' faces, he added, "I'll keep in touch with you, but I'll be free someday. I swear I will." Finally, Prince spoke. "This has greatly upset me, son. I never expected the colonel would sell any of us, but we're his property. Remember that I have taught you to be a hard worker, useful and honest at all times." "I'll remember, father." Cris put his arms around his mother, who had suddenly seemed very small as she huddled on her stool and wiped away her tears. "Remember that we are descendants of praying Indians, son," she said. "We believe in God, obey any and all laws, and if you feel hatred from your master, repeat this little prayer to yourself. Amanomen Jehovah Jahasan Matag. Take away, Lord, my stony heart, and the Lord will take care of you." Cris kissed his mother and went out inside to get his things together. Tomorrow he would leave for a new home to serve a new master. His heart was sad, but deep within him there burned a determination that he would someday be free.